What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that was just released, which was honestly one of my most anticipated films for this year. And the reason for that is the original film in this series is one of my favorite found footage horror films of all time. And that film is Hell House LLC, directed by Stephen Cognetti. When I first saw Hell House LLC, I knew absolutely nothing about it whatsoever. And I was completely and totally shocked by how incredible the execution was, the performances, the production design, the general attention to detail when it comes to the scare factor in that film. There's so little to do in that movie with jump scares and so much more to do with what Stephen Cognetti puts in the frame and forces you to look at. And I think that's what makes that movie so effective, is the pacing, the growing anxiety throughout the film, the tension between the characters. It's just really well executed. And over the years, every time I've revisited it, I've just grown to love it more and more. And I think it's the perfect example of how to execute found footage. Found footage films typically don't have the budget of like a big budget Hollywood horror film. You're working with a lot less money. So when you're working with less money, you have to try to accomplish the scare factor and all of the important details as to what makes a horror movie effective with much less. And I think that's what Stephen Cognetti excels with in Hell House LLC, is utilizing the budget he has to his advantage, especially with like the creepy clown mask in the first film. All the attention to detail that really pays off in the end, that despite it not having a large budget, makes it such an effective film. He's made 2 sequels since that film, and it's been a little while since the third installment in the franchise, and I was very excited for this one because we were getting out of the Abaddon Hotel and into a new location, trying to add new lore into the story, and I've been really hyped to check this out as soon as it was announced that it was going to come out on Shudder. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor. Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor is directed by Stephen Cognetti. A group of cold case investigators stay at the Carmichael Manor, site of the grisly and unsolved murders of the Carmichael family back in the 80s. After 4 nights, the group was never heard from again. What is discovered on their footage is even more disturbing than anything found on the Hell House tapes. So, as I said, a huge fan of the original Hell House LLC. I've watched all of the sequels, been relatively invested in the franchise as a whole, and this movie is on par with the original for how effective and scary and well made that it is. I was blown away that a 4th installment in a film series was this effective and this back to basics, because the 2 sequels that followed the original Hell House LLC, they added to the lore, but overall it was going back to the Abaddon Hotel, really focusing on that as the central core of the story. Well, in this story, you completely get away from the Abaddon Hotel. There are references to it. It obviously plays a part in the story, but we're going to this new place called the Carmichael Manor. And at the beginning of the film, it's a talking head documentary. We're talking to these 2 characters who are discussing this internet sleuthing website led by this woman named Margot, and she often travels with her girlfriend Rebecca, and the 2 of them go around and they look into these cold cases. They go to these sites to explore where these horrible crimes have been committed. And as we're told by the people in this Talking Heads documentary, these 2 and Margot's brother, Chase, went to this Carmichael Manor where this grisly series of murders has occurred, and they died. All 3 of them died. Something happened to all 3 of them, and they found their cameras, and there's footage on the cameras showing what happened to them. And so the movie is, the people in the documentary tell us that we're going to see what happened to these people, and they kind of give us background information throughout the film as we're watching the footage as to what was going on. Well, at the same time, we get footage of the Carmichael family from the 80s. One of the young daughters was interested in filmmaking, and she's constantly filming around the house, and so we'll cut to footage back in the 80s of them to try to figure out what happened, who murdered the family, because there's all this mystery surrounding the murders of the family. So, as I said, this movie was fantastic. I did not expect this to come close to the original by any means, because the original did something truly special. And like I said, I've enjoyed elements of the second and third films, but they never really lived up to the original for me as far as the scare factor, the anxiety that's built up in those films, films, just the tension. And this movie accomplishes all of what the first film did. What I really love about this is the initial buildup of the Carmichael Manor and just getting that atmosphere and the idea of where these characters are going to be located. This manor is secluded in the middle of nowhere, miles and miles outside of a town, in the middle of the woods. I think they say the closest thing to them is the people who are renting out the house say they live like 25 or 30 minutes outside of the manor. There's nothing super close to them for help if something happens. It's like you're going to be waiting for quite some time for someone to get there. So building that isolation at the beginning and understanding just how alone these characters are is really important. And I think Stephen Cognetti does a phenomenal job at building that up at the beginning of the film. Similarly to the original Hell House film, what I love about this is the establishment of the characters. They do a really great job at building a rapport between the two women at the beginning of the film and understanding their relationship and kind of giving us some background into their relationship as a whole, especially with Rebecca and her job. She's kind of going on these adventures with Margot and they go to these different places together, but she's trying to build a career for herself, which is impacting their relationship. And I think the way that that's written is really well incorporated in the story to make you care about these characters. And then we're introduced to Margot's brother Chase, who comes there, and you can tell Rebecca at the beginning of the film is kind of hesitant to him being there, and she's worried that something might happen because of something with his history. And we know that Margot is bringing him there to try to help him with whatever he's going through in that particular moment. And I loved the establishment of those characters, and I thought they did a great job, similarly to the original Hell House, of really making their relationships feel naturalistic. They feel like people. If you were watching this movie and seeing this footage, knowing nothing about it, it just feels like you're watching real people going to investigate this household. And that's what I really loved about this movie, is just how realistic it feels. My favorite part about found footage films is when they can come off as feeling very real and not feeling scripted. And that's what I liked so much about this movie, is it doesn't feel scripted, it feels very natural. Similar to the first Hell House film, there are some truly horrific moments in this that aren't all about the jump scares. There are a couple of moments where there are jump scares included. I feel like because of the tension and atmosphere that Cognetti builds throughout the film, I'm 100% okay with it because they're really effectively included in the movie. And I was really impressed with the pacing of the scares in the film and just how many moments you're forced to stare at something that's absolutely horrifying, wondering what's going to happen to our characters. There's new clown masks incorporated in this that are just as horrifying as the one from the original film. I really love the new addition to the lore of the story. I think the way it incorporates into the other films in the series, it's just perfectly intertwined. There's some twists and turns in the third act of this film that I really was not expecting whatsoever, and I was just on the edge of my seat the entire runtime. It's just so well paced, it's structured perfectly, the payoff in the end is fantastic, and honestly they allude to the fact that there could be another film after this, and if Stephen Cognetti wants to keep putting out films like this, I am 100% on board. It is so fantastic, it's scary, it was a perfect film to watch around this time of year, and if you have a Shudder subscription, or even if you don't have a Shudder subscription, this is a perfect reason to get one. Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor is fantastic. So have you seen Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this was fantastic. It was everything I was hoping for in this movie and more. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to putting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.